The list. Is there a list she has? How do we handle this marriage? My age is 39. My spouse is 34. None of our kids are here. We've been together for 13 years, but we've only been married for 9. A year ago, we started to drift apart. I started to spend more and more time working and less time socializing. I was socially and emotionally indifferent, and it was obvious that this was having a negative effect on our relationship as she started to spend an increasing amount of time with coworkers and other people. She'd begun an with a colleague by the time we walked into MC last fall. She disputes that, claiming that their conversations were proper and that they never discussed her marital issues or her affections for the man. She has been aloof for the last 8 months that they have been in marital counseling. Since I considered her to be one of the issues, I took a while to warm up to the counseling. I'm almost finished with a degree that will need us to relocate from where we currently live in order for me to acquire a well-paying job. She's not overly thrilled about moving in with an unattached, distant guy, and stepping outside of her social safety net. Not to mention this other man, sort of. Over the previous 8 months, there had been numerous flare-ups, but a month ago, I spoke with her man and ordered him to back off, which brought everything to a head. My spouse claimed I had emotionally assaulted her, packed some of her belongings, and moved out. Until recently, I didn't really understand my own self-centered acts clearly, and I definitely blamed her for most of our difficulties. I can tell that she continues to chat to the other person by looking through my phone records. As I see, I'm trying to get more buddies. It is really painful. I've shed about 15 pounds. Although I am in excellent physical shape, 15 pounds is a lot for my little physique. I have restricted my contact with her for the time being, but we still speak on occasion. I spent the weekend at a friend's house in a different city after I decided not to go to the party to which we were both invited. I was worried that I would see her there, chatting to that other guy, or that she would just turn her back on me. There's no reason to suffer that way. We were going to talk over lunch today, but I canceled that too in order to avoid conflict. I would just be rude and grumpy, as I was worried. There's no need to show her how angry I am, in my opinion. Over the past year, I've used walking away from our arguments or going for hours at a time without speaking to her as a coping technique. A quiet medical intervention. It was a really bad thing to do, and my IC has made me recognize that I was unable to express my thoughts in a way that was appropriate, and that I was using my passive quiet as a way to repress my anger. Sometimes, having little to no interaction feels a lot like that harmful behavior. She does not reside with the man. She has been in contact with this other person, but she currently resides with a coworker and his wife. It's visible to me in our cell records. Reef makes a call. I told her to cut off any non-work communication with the person before we split up, or I would walk. Rather, she took a stroll. I see now that the way I insisted on things seemed to her like a control issue on my part. However, I failed to understand how she might re-engage while considering another man. She did, however, walk. She made the decision to keep in touch with him. Right now, she is the one who refuses to put any effort into our marriage. I should just give her as much space as I can and stop talking to her if that's what she wants. She desired to discuss financial matters at some point this week. Each of us makes our own money. Together, we could afford our apartment. But if this continues for too long or whatever, I'll definitely need to move into a smaller place in a few months. It will be difficult to get in touch. Does that entail not returning emails or anything else? About a week ago, after reading Divorce Remedy, I realized she never said I love you and I stopped saying it. I sent her 2 emails at once, but I stopped sending them and didn't say much because she claimed I appeared desperate. She informed me last week that although she wants to go, she doesn't trust her emotions since they could change and that I'm changing quickly. This is unsettling. My 99 stated that since I am closer to the man she desired a marriage with, my 180 has presumably confused her. I'll have a financial email interaction with you. Given how abruptly she walked, she ought to contribute to the rent for a few months. However, I'm not sure if I want her money or not. The other man isn't dating. He's 6 years younger than me, but we're quite similar men. Similar interests, political views, religious beliefs, and professional path. He works for an organization that probably would not put up with it if it became apparent that he was breaking the rules. He recently relocated here in the summer. She quickly clung to him. I believe I concur with you. I canceled a few phone check-ins with her last week, and she disappeared this past weekend. She seemed a touch irritated in an email she sent me this morning. I then had lunch at her workplace and we discussed our money problems along with other things. We had a nice talk, and I'm pleased I brought it up because she did believe I was trying to ignore her once more. She had been asked to a supper in his building with their common acquaintances, which was the reason she had phoned the this past weekend. A supper to sitters. It seems that he was also present. She informed me that she is no longer attracted to him, that she has finished reading Codependent, and that the chapter on dependence adequately captures her current state of mind. Given that she is becoming aware of her codependency difficulties, she expressed doubt about her ability to be in a healthy relationship at this time. I informed her that even though I still love and want her in my life, I am working toward the day when I can go on and be okay without her. Along with my overall absence and lack of communication, I also promised to apologize to her mother for how I had treated her daughter. When I offered to do that, she broke down in tears. I have never got along with my in-laws. In fact, they really didn't want us to be married, and it has always affected how I see her sister and mother. Forced me to stand at my desk instead of attempting to interact with them. I also informed her that I would be willing to see a MC if she wanted to work on our marriage. However, our present MC also sees her on an individual basis, and I don't think that's a good way to handle things, so we have to find someone new. The MC is unable to be impartial. My 99 shouldn't also serve as our MC, in my opinion. She promised to give it some thought. Not an IC, however, I no longer email her private information, and I wait to tell her I love her until she has expressed it to me. I also won't attend her gatherings if I think I could be tempted to act irrationally out of rage or something else. That's what I did over the weekend. Additionally, I decided not to go to lunch with her on Sunday and instead spent time away with a friend since I didn't think I could engage with her without aggravating the situation, acting more in line with my negative feelings than with the more optimistic course my life is on. Thus, that kind of thing. According to her IC, she codepends. I've read a few chapters of Codependent No More, but I don't really see myself in it. To be honest, most people probably wouldn't describe myself as a pleasant guy. However, I'll investigate. When she calls me out of the blue, I don't pick up. We arrange phone conversations. I respond to her emails, but it takes me a whole day, which annoys her already. However, I would like to respond more slowly. This person would not have threatened your relationship, and you would not have held him responsible for your wife's actions if you had set up sound boundaries. This was noted by my 99 as well. He hasn't brought it up to me again as of yet. Maybe tomorrow during counseling, I'll talk to him about it. I've finished reading the most of No More Mr. Nice Guy. It doesn't truly capture who I am. I don't usually try to win people over or use attachments as a means of getting what I want. I have a tendency to be conceited and self-absorbed. I got a few points higher than celebrities on an online test of narcissistic traits. Until I believe someone has something valuable to say, I usually ignore them and don't try to grab their attention. I am focusing on those things. I found a few little points in the Nice Man book that I need personally consider, but overall, I lean toward another flaw. I should be more outgoing and considerate of other people's interests. For once, get some real pals and engage in social activities. My therapist and I had a conversation today regarding the lessons I took up about women from my mother. Additionally, some of the things I simply absorbed as a child had never actually occurred to me. I find it really disturbing. One of the many lessons I learned was that I was frequently shielded from the repercussions. Made me question what lessons I've learned about being a man as well. My father was an emotionless enforcer of rules. The family's only provider and the most distant from them. Not a friend. Never gave me a lot of knowledge about anything. I believe that having little to no interaction is more to my liking. Since I believe that having no contact at all would be ineffective and appear to be a quiet form of therapy, I made the decision to give myself certain limits. This week, after our in-person conversation with her on Tuesday, I canceled our scheduled Easter lunch and told her that other plans had come up. On Thursday, we only had one other 30-minute phone call. I gave her free rein to talk and stuff. These are the limits that I came up with. 1. No regular in-person gatherings. Now, try to stay away from them. 2. She didn't make the daily check-in calls. Just do them once a week. 3. Allow her to take the lead when we speak, letting her share her activities and any other thoughts she may have. 4. To get her to continue chatting about her week or thoughts, use open-ended inquiries. 5. Confirm any improvements she makes. 6. Say I'm sorry you feel that way in response if she starts criticizing me or other people. 7. Don't divulge any specifics about my schedule. 8. Don't divulge any specifics about what I'm learning. 9. Have a bright and upbeat demeanor when I speak with her. Please don't tell her if I'm angry. 10. Please don't discuss my feelings with her. 11. Never give her advice. 12. Invite her not to do anything with me at all. These are the broad guidelines I came up with to assist me keep my attention on myself and avoid becoming overly fixated on things like our marriage status. I work on my spirituality, have weekly lunches or meetings with friends, attend support groups, and receive counseling. In addition, I'm regularly working out and picking up new hobbies. It's a new tattoo that I received yesterday. I will not be telling her about it. At the end of the month, she also wants to discuss this separation with her IC. Our MC was her IC as well. She had requested that I accompany her. However, I've already stated that I don't feel comfortable with it and that she need to utilize the time to see her IC alone. Her IC is on vacation, so this will be her first IC session in a month. I feel totally insulted by her continuous contact with him. Therefore, if she wants to come back at all, she must agree to sit down with me and talk about the Aya and answer any questions I may have, even if she declared the relationship ended. In addition, I'd like a new MC who can offer us a different viewpoint and who neither of us has before consulted for IC. Today, I purchased the book Not Just Friends and began to read it. My spouse disputes that her affair was serious, claiming that she never shared her feelings for him, slept with him, or discussed her marital issues with him. And yet, while I wasn't home, she invited him over. When no one else was around, she went to his apartment. Christmas gifts were wrapped for his office. Conversed with him over the phone while I wasn't at home, among other things. I'm hoping the book can be of some assistance to me. I was furious with the other man at first. With my wife, not as much. I can see her actions more clearly now that I'm a little further away. I held myself responsible for my emotional detachment, social withdrawal, and other behaviors. All of it is accurate, but her actions have only made my problems worse and made the process of reconciliation more difficult. Since she is in denial, I have honestly decided over the weekend that unless she comes open about this stuff and works on herself the way I am working on myself, I don't want her back. She gave me an unexpected call today. She called to check on me since I had canceled our lunch appointment. I set boundaries for myself and stated, "I'm busy right now, we'll talk later." Being free from her constant demands felt fantastic. As it happened, I was reading the book I had purchased at Barnes & Noble. I'm going to give her a quick email later in the week to let her know which day I'm available for a call. That ought to let her know that I'm available for conversation, but only at prearranged times. And that too just once this week. I'm not sure if I should just let it happen or be honest about my wish to just speak with people once a week. I don't want to discuss the E with someone on the phone. She's covering it up. I believe there will be chaos if I discuss it over the phone. She primarily holds me responsible for our marriage state of disarray. I think I contributed more than half of what I should have. However, I am addressing those problems, becoming less self-centered and more other-focused. Not that I see much of the opposite direction. That's my current situation, then. Instead of letting things sort of fall apart on their own, I'm thinking about writing my wife the following note to start a no-contact period. How do you feel? My 99 believes that I should essentially stop talking to her, give her the space she needs, and focus on improving myself. He advised me to focus on taking care of myself right now rather than worrying about how she might perceive my behavior. She will have to work with her own counselor and handle things on her own. Hello, I intended to send this note first, but we can talk this Thursday. I want to start by again expressing my love and care for you. Furthermore, I hope that we can maintain our marriage going forward because I am worried about it. It has been beneficial for me that you needed some time apart to work on your problems and gain some distance from our relationship. Forced to face my challenges is making me stronger on an emotional, spiritual, and social level. I now have a solid and knowledgeable support system, mainly from my counselor and AA. I hope you will find our separation to be beneficial both now and in the future. However, I will not be able to continue going to church with you at this time, nor will I be able to have weekly phone check-ins. When we are apart, I don't believe it is in my best spiritual interest to keep trying to be a part of that community. Finding my own spiritual home will be necessary. Regarding communication, it is not in my best interest to stay in touch with you on a daily basis. This has been on my mind for a few weeks now. I'm not attempting to treat you quietly. It's hard for me to communicate and have conversations with you. In addition, I acknowledge and appreciate the separation you requested and the fact that I still have personal growth to do. We can see a new marital counselor together if you decide at some point that we should work on our marriage. However, I will need to be persuaded by you before I will join in that. Your continuous non-work interaction with is one of the things that worries me. Our marriage is destroyed by emotional affairs just as much as by any other type. Additionally, as long as you are not honoring boundaries with other men, I don't think there is much chance of an eventual reconciliation. Regarding the nature of that attraction and relationship, I've heard what you said. However, it is still an emotional affair. Additionally, that is not the first instance in our union. This one simply occurred during an extremely unfortunate period. Once more, I love you and am ready to work on our marriage at a later time. I am resolving my own problems and getting better every day. Whatever transpires between us, I shall endure and prosper. I can't hold out for you indefinitely. The lease on this apartment expires at the end of August. And if things haven't changed for the better by then, I intend to move out at that point and move on with my life. This Thursday, we can discuss anything related to business, like the phone bill, but not anything else. She traveled abroad for a seminar a few years back. While I was prying into her life, I discovered in her diary that she had also gone to that nation because she was crushing on a man we both knew there. She remained in his company. That's a pretty far to go for a romantic interest. She never mentioned it to me. The only reason I knew was because I read her diary, about which she was furious and accused me of being a stalker for looking through our phone records. But that is nonsense. I had total faith in her to travel to another nation by myself. She violated both my opinion and that confidence. Perhaps I should just talk to her about business and let these matters alone for the time being. If she gets in touch with me and says she wants to visit MC, if she doesn't, I've been telling people that even though we are apart, we are still fully responsible. I'm not sure if I should admit her involvement in this. I was icy and accusing at times, and I was aloof and a workaholic. Some of these folks knew the they would know her if I informed them about the E. A few collaborate with both of them. things might become a little ugly. Thus, I'm not really prepared to take on that kind of task. I'm not sure if the actually actively promoted this or what his true role is in this situation. It looks that she is the one pursuing him. She pays her own bills, though. Actually, she currently lives with a couple and doesn't have any bills to pay. As far as that goes, my income and hers are equal. She can thus take care of herself, and she does. Over the previous year, I saved my salary to pay off school debt, but I now have to use both my current income and portion of those savings to cover my monthly expenses. I talked to my wife for about 8 minutes tonight. She made an attempt to converse with me about my day. I separated the bill and steered us to business information regarding our phone plans. She claimed that when she met me this week, I had cut my dreadlocks fairly short. I slashed past them by about 2 feet. I replied that I had, and that was that. I told her I didn't feel the need to check in with her every week, and she asked whether we would still be spending time together on Sundays. I told her I'd locate the gift certificates and have a receptionist drop them off at her workplace, but she insisted on coming by my apartment tomorrow to pick them up. When I couldn't find them, I emailed her and requested for both our car key and her apartment key. She comes from a city where owning a car is a liability, and there is excellent public transportation. Therefore, she has never obtained a driver's license. In addition, I requested that she remove my name from a shared credit card account. It's likely that I was cooler than I should have been. I was just being straightforward. I wasn't harsh in any way. She used to be that way with me, but now she seems to want to be more chummy and in contact with me. I didn't mention the or her ongoing communication with him. There's a part of me that thinks I ought to have related everything to that. She sent me an email stating that, despite the fact that the automobile is registered in my name, she will not give it to me and wants it retitled in her name. She said that she is going to look at apartments tomorrow and that she would not give me her key because some of her belongings are still here. I have new knowledge, and she will hold on to it until her belongings are released. She will also pick up her certificates at this apartment tomorrow since I can't seem to find them. She also expressed her hope that we might accomplish this without acting like complete strangers, to put it another way. But perhaps I'm mistaken. OM2 has been contacted by her, indicating that she has been intending to move into an apartment. After we had a brief argument over the phone, she hung up on me. She then sent me an email asking me to be nice. She won't converse with me. I told her on the phone that her continuous communication with was improper because she had been involved in an emotional affair. Is it lawyer time now that she hung up and sent the email? She just spent an hour and a half on the phone with me, answering all of my questions concerning the situation. She seemed to waver from being reluctant and angry, then crying and doing all kinds of other things. She informed me that, initially, their only encounters had been for lunch once a week. Later on, they had none as he withdrew. Why it was she was after him. She felt alone. They had lunch together, and I wonder how often they have seen each other since we parted. She told me what they discussed, saying that although she avoids spending time with him alone and exercises extreme caution when she interacts with him at work, she is still attracted to him. There have been occasions when he is present at an event with buddies. She expressed her uncertainty on the discussion, unsure about the balance of power in play. She stated that she is no longer reading codependent and that the work she has been doing is to ensure that she does things out of a desire to not please me. She's also not sure how that talk will proceed in that particular dynamic. Her IC will be away until the end of the month on vacation. She finds it difficult to process the IC as a result. She added that this week she made the decision to look for an apartment because she was excited about the prospect of trying to live independently rather than relying on others and trying to get their approval. Although I believe she was completely honest and that the matter has been resolved, I also get the impression that she is determined to continue her in-depth personal exploration. What brings her joy in pursuing that independently, apart, with no prospect of our marriage coming to an end? It appears that's her strategy. She sent me an email this morning. She said that I had victimized her during our talk last night, and she was furious. At the end of the month, she plans to move out fully and acquire a new apartment. That instead of giving me her new phone number, she will obtain a new one. That she is not asking me to her birthday party next month since I don't fit in with her idea of celebrating herself. At the end of the month, she will speak with her counselor to choose her next course of action. I have no idea what to say, therefore I won't be responding just yet. We are a cat and childless couple. In about 30 minutes, she and a friend of mine will go on a little marathon run. I've known him as a buddy for some time. I contributed to some of his dissertation writing. Thus, I hope we may have some enjoyable conversations. He is unaware that we have yet to part ways. Having children or not makes this difficult. She was assaulted as a child, which she discovered when she was approximately 30. I didn't want to hear the story she told me when we first got married. Something like that is too big for people to forget, in my opinion. I do now. It's coming up again, she says. How I used to ignore her back then. How her mother had struck her, etc. I fear I'm turning into the victim of all her previous suffering. She made a huge error and changed the history of our marriage. She wasn't ready, she was too young. Was it done incorrectly? She just blah blah. Every word used to describe victims. Not in contact. I'm not going to be her punching bag just yet. The absence of contact stings. She is a pain to be around too. I have days when I'm okay and days when I'm overjoyed. I become depressed sometimes, usually after talking to someone as we did this morning and last night. It is difficult for me to call anyone because all of my pals work. Awaiting that marathon, that's all. I'm so excited that I'm going to pull a muscle there. Went to work out earlier at the gym. Now that I think about it, I played the victim. It's difficult to see it right now. Not in contact. I'm all in. I'm not going to phone or email her. At this time, won't reply to mails either. I believed I was doing extremely well for a few days. I saw an email this morning that I received yesterday night. She asked me to say more in her lengthy letter than just, "I'm sorry you feel that way," pointing out that, in addition to blaming me, she also accepted responsibility for something. The other portion, where I continued to place blame and said things like "I'll get out of your life" in response to my extra remarks, was a careless error that led to more issues. She also mentioned wanting to speak on the phone or have a face-to-face meeting the next week. I'm going to disregard the email. I don't have to answer just yet. Worry all day, that's awful. My symptoms disappeared this evening when I began to consider the AAS first step. We acknowledged that alcohol had taken control of our life and that we were helpless against it. Step 12, which states that we apply these principles to all of our affairs, applies to my circumstance, I realized. Step 1, I can't control my anxiety, and I can't even handle my life. Feeling down, I spent the entire day sitting around trying to fall asleep. Tonight, I got my ass up and headed out. While I'm out, I write in my journal about the first step and how it might relate to my circumstances, which go beyond my desire to drink to numb the agony in my body and mind. Not only do I have no control over my anxiety, but I also have no control over my wife, and trying to control her has made my life out of control. When she wasn't ready to respond to my inquiries, I should not have pressed her on the EF issue. It was completely useless to me. She's opted to move into an apartment, and a host of other things have returned to cause me distress, sending me nasty and irate messages, placing blame on emails, and acting foolish. What a pitiful state of affairs. It truly helps to think about my helplessness over her and my anxieties in a humorous manner. Knowing that I cannot make my anxiety go away and that I am not accountable for her behavior is somewhat soothing. Give up and accept it, take the medication, of course. However, give up your mental battle. I promised not to reply to her most recent email, so I didn't. I'm going to approach that day by day. I stayed silent today. I'm hoping not to reply tomorrow. I worry that if I ignore that most recent email, she'll think I'm treating her rudely once more. However, once more, I have no control over her responses. I have no power over her. It will just make things worse for me to try to fret about her reaction to my lack of response. More fear and anxiety, and if I react, I guarantee that I will, at best, encourage blame-shifting behavior and, at worst, exacerbate the problem. I replied to a furious email, which is one of the reasons why everything went haywire. With the E, she turned the tables on me and wrote me a message on Thursday night. She also needs to respond to my questions. Therefore, setting a healthy boundary here would probably be for me to not answer her furious, accusatory email if she writes it. Positive things get my attention, but that other crap doesn't. Another day has passed and I still haven't responded to her Friday night email, nor made any attempt to get in touch with her. Nonetheless, I still catch myself attempting to defend contact. I still have ideas that essentially tell me that, both recently and in the past, I was at fault and that I ought to strive to set things right. Along with the notion that it would be preferable to work on the marriage rather than remain mute, I also think that if I let go, I am giving up on the union. Without a doubt, I was at fault. However, she has also been. She walked away. She says she is being cautious, but she is still in contact with another man. Yes, that's correct. If she wanted to work on our marriage, we wouldn't be living apart. She would not have left if she had intended to improve the marriage. That's the way things really are. Any pressure from me to get things done, like I did the other night, will only make her more resentful and make me feel awful as well. It does not necessarily indicate that I am given up just because I do not make contact at this time, not even through an accusatory email. I'm working on changing my own negative thought patterns and poor habits. I'm observing that I need to counter arguments with a reality check. It is challenging since I'm not in a position where I can think clearly about my wife in particular. I guess I'm becoming better at it. All of the excuses I offer are attempts to exert some sort of control over the circumstances, failing to acknowledge my helplessness and the need to accept this as a fact of life and view it as a freedom rather than a limitation. Being without power need not be a negative thing. It's just the way things are. Today I experienced some anxiety. Though not as severe, I occasionally had dry mouth, an elevated heart rate, and tightness in my stomach and chest. It appears and disappears. Again, I tried telling myself I had no control over this as the symptoms would appear and worsen. And it is beneficial. The reminder at least prevents me from aggravating the situation by worrying excessively about the symptoms and going into panic mode. I had a great time riding my bike for a long time today, no touch. Not even given it a thought. I wasted much of the day on Facebook because I had never created an account before. My friend urged me to proceed with the task. Although it is very silly, it was a pleasant diversion. In search of artwork as well to replace the pictures I removed from the walls a few weeks ago, considering how I can somewhat renovate without going over budget, so that it doesn't feel the same as it did when we were together. Although it can be expensive, I think that art is an investment. I received a few wonderful stuff last week. Not a single symptom of anxiety today. I wonder whether it has anything to do with my mind being diverted away from my wife. I'm not sure whether any certain ideas are actually causing the anxiousness. It's only a physical response, unable to reason myself out of it. Can only exacerbate my anxiety if I become fixated on it. However, I am really appreciative that I was spared from having to deal with sporadic anxiety symptoms today. Those, in my opinion, are the worst aspects of it all. It simply feels so bad, almost like I'm going to die. It was awful, even the diminished intensity I experienced over the weekend. It's better if I had the flu. My friend requested me to assist with the illustration of a graphic novel after his artist passed away. It would be a pleasant diversion, but it would take a lot of time away from completing my graduate courses so I can start working the next year. Not sure if I have the time. I currently have a lot of free time because my graduate school pays me to read and write. I gave my wife a brief email on the recommendation of my IC, in which I essentially apologized for a couple things and acknowledged her viewpoint. A few hours later, she responded to express how much she appreciated it and that if I wanted to meet, that was fine. That happened on Tuesday. I have not emailed her in response. My apartment has been redesigned by me. I packed everything she owned. I didn't want the space to resemble her previous presence. Still working on it, though. I'm not sure if I should respond right away or wait for her to explicitly invite me. Thus, I attended a free jazz and art event in town tonight following my AA meeting. Enjoyed myself. It was even cooler when an artist handed me a piece for free. My spouse was present. Although I was aware that she may be there, I was unaware that she would be present when I went. Thus, I didn't visit her or do anything else. She approached me, gave me a hug, and said, "I just wanted to say hi," then turned to speak with someone else. The fact that she did it in reality without saying so irritated me a little. Talking to people was enjoyable for me. She approached me a little time later when I was having a conversation with someone, apologized, and said she shouldn't have simply walked up to me and given me a hug like that. I said, "Okay," and that was my last statement. After that, I departed and arrived home shortly after. She observed me there being content, gregarious, and socially active. I made no attempt to communicate with her. "Okay," was the only thing I said to her, and not on my own. Everything seems so weird. I met with my wife yesterday to have a conversation. We had a 2-hour conversation. She had to sign a lease by next Friday in order to be considered for an apartment. That would be a lease for a full year. She expressed her excitement at the prospect of being able to overcome her anxiety of being by herself and learn how to live independently. Having spent the entire time lodging with friends, she is now considering getting a house of her own. For me, the beginning of September marks the expiration of the lease on the apartment that we shared together. I have an offer to start teaching in the fall in a different place that is several hundred miles away. If we were together, I would just come here for the other 4 days and commute once a week for 3 days, but without someone to split costs and duties for our 2 kiddies. If I stayed where I am, it would not make sense. In addition, I have to start seeking for long-term jobs in the fall. It entails accepting a job offer from anyone for the following academic year. It appears that she is requesting that I wait a year to see if she resolves her personal problems. That's not the right approach to handle the situation, in my opinion, while she lives alone and overcomes her codependency problems. If I were to stay in this city where she is, I would be asking for too much, facing many risks, and receiving no promises. There's no work at a university near where I live, so that's a financial and longer-term professional choice. I also spent 12 years training to become a professor. The thought of spending a year in limbo, living as I currently do with little hope, a great deal of anxiety, despair, and fear, and not being able to truly go on, is also present. Give me the impression that I can decide whether or not to stay in this marriage. I did warn her that I might sue for divorce over this if she signed that lease, or a formal separation, at the absolute least. She is aware of the problems. She stated that she decided to take the chance and grab the apartment as her initial response to it. She claimed that because I had stopped talking to her, she felt as though I was attempting to move on and no longer cared, which is why she went looking for an apartment. She moved out, I informed her, and she's expressed her want to go on other occasions. Additionally, there appears to be an in some part of the image. What then was I meant to do? In addition, everything I've read and heard from other people says to let her go if that's what she wants. Avoid pursuing. Despite her attraction to she claimed that she hasn't spent any alone time with him in a month. He has, however, traveled to locations where she is in big groups, but they have not really interacted. She prefers to live alone, without a partner. I believe that she has made up her mind. Despite this, she still has a week to choose her abode. I still have a few months left in this city until my lease expires. I just can't wait for her to arrive. Too much would be lost for too little. In my opinion, now is the crucial moment to remain steady. Under no circumstances should you pursue her. Get a place to stay in the other city where you are employed. Proceed with the 180. Forget about her. Her entire speech is one of chase me. Update. I won't call her or initiate contact. I will however respond to her calls or invites. I don't want to break my lease and pay. I don't have to move till late summer, so that is when I will plan to go. I have also made some friends here over the past couple months and would like to continue with my counseling, my AA group, and other such things for the next few months. To make sure I am on sure footing when I do have to go, it will actually be cheaper for me to live elsewhere. I can get free counseling through my university, and my rent may be cheaper if I can get in the building. I had looked at back in February where a friend lives. I just redecorated my apartment too. No need to rush out of here and react by running off yet. I have to say that being cool and dispassionate was not my strong point in our conversation yesterday. We both cried. It was pretty tough. There wasn't any way I could keep that from happening. We were in a public coffee shop. I am sure we both looked ridiculous. Wife emailed me tonight saying she has been reflecting on our conversation all day. She had asked me to come to church with her and then canceled this morning. She sounded worn out on the phone. Tonight, her email said she would send me something tomorrow over email, and we could discuss it face-to-face later in the week. I responded that I thought it would be better for her to say whatever she needed to say face-to-face, and if she needed to write it out, to do that for herself without sending it to me. My thought there was that if she plans to go ahead and sign a lease, she needs to say all that kind of stuff to me in person and not hide behind an electronic device, allowing the distance and impersonal nature of email to make things easier. I didn't say that to her, but that is my thinking. I had a great day. I am an artist, can draw portraits and all sorts of stuff, but I have never painted anything. Today I almost finished my first painting. It looks great. I drew it on the canvas first and then got used to working with brushes. Very fun, relaxing, and exciting to do. New hobby. She emailed today. We are meeting in the morning before my IC. She wanted to spend the evening collecting her thoughts so she can be as direct and clear as possible about what she is thinking. At least I will be able to process the discussion immediately with my counselor. I don't have to respond definitively to whatever she has to say. I can take it to my counselor and talk it through. I think she will want to sign the lease. If she were backing down on that, she'd just tell me without the fanfare and space for thought collection, so she says things just right. Maybe she's trying to think of some compromise. I was very clear to her that I was not bluffing about filing with the courts if she took that step. Once again, I've had a good day so far. I am not anxious about tomorrow and was not fearful or acting out of emotion in my brief responses to figure out a time to meet. Initiated by her, I've been trying to complete my painting, went to the gym, have a meeting later, and need to work on my to-do list that I make each day. I am just carrying on. Tomorrow morning could be another issue once we meet and if she says she's ready to move out permanently or whatnot. I won't beg her, I won't plead with her, but there is probably no way I won't tear up over it. For me, it is not whether I cry, but how I act toward if I do. I have counseling right afterward, so I'm often at my calmest during that part of the day. So, my W and I met this past Tuesday and she decided to get an apartment. I had IC immediately afterward and processed the whole thing with him. He and I talked about my initial reaction to file for divorce. My tendency is to withdraw, not allow myself to feel various hurts and cover them with anger and some unhealthy habits. And at the conclusion I decided that filing right now would not be a good choice for me. I would not be doing it out of my best intentions and it would not help me move on ultimately. He recommended separation counseling. 1 or 2 sessions to establish the kind of boundaries she and I will establish, and to preserve the possibility of reconciliation in the future should we decide to try that. He suggested I recommend it to her since she did not want to file either. She agreed and set up an appointment with a counselor and she will pay for it. In the meantime, I have had no contact with her whatsoever since Tuesday on my initiative. She emailed me a couple days ago wondering what kind of contact we should have till May 1st, when we have counseling. She wanted to know if I wanted to do something on Sundays with her and to have weekly phone check-ins. I responded today that we can establish those things at the counseling session. I didn't tell her, but I want space from her right now. I am disappointing in her decision to move out. Sometimes I am angry, which I have learned is often a cover for me to push away feelings like disappointment and other hurts. So, I don't want to act on any of that toward her. And I just need space to do my own thing till the counseling session and she moves out on May 3rd. Her stuff is already packed up and put in a closet. I feel like I am on top of it. This separation is of course a daily concern of mine, but it doesn't control my life right now. I do, however, sometimes think I should just go ahead and get divorce paperwork in order. But that is usually when I am angry about the whole thing, which just shows me I would be acting out of anger and not out of my own choices and best interests. So, I am not doing that yet. She's paying. My 99 recommended it, so I'm going next Wednesday. Won't hurt anything. Counselor thinks that my not having contact with her these next 2 weeks is my attempt to withdraw and not feel or think about painful things. A habit that has been a problem for me, shutting down, shutting people out. Maybe that is what I am doing. In general, I am not doing that with other people now. I am reaching out and more social than I have been in years, and it is only 2 weeks of no contact really till the counseling session, so it is not a permanent thing. On the other hand, I am shutting her out mentally. I rarely think about her anymore, and don't really care much at this point. It is going on 3 months apart, and way over a year of fighting and all sorts of troubles before that. So, I'm glad to be rid of the issue for a while. Having fun on my own. Painting, lifting and running, meeting with friends, etc. No worries about my career future if she is not around. I can move wherever I want if offered a permanent post. Right now, she would have to work to get me back on board. She's not doing that. So why should I really be reaching out to her? Wife emailed on Thursday to ask what time she can come next Friday to get the rest of her stuff and whether she needed boxes. I have not responded. I packed all her stuff already. I have been doing fine for the most part, not obsessing about the separation, not thinking about other man and letting hatred overtake me with regard to him, and just learning new hobbies. Painting, working out 6 days a week, and such things. Having fun really. But her email, the first in a while now, kind of set me off during the evening. Only got 4 hours of sleep instead of what I have been getting. 7 to 8 hours. Not that I am worried about her moving out, and whether we'll reconcile someday or anything. But it made me realize that I really don't want or need contact with her right now. I am doing fine. Not me rethinking whether I want to do separation counseling at all, or just tell her I don't want to talk, meet, or email. Since she is moving out, I just want to live my life and not think about our relationship. I'm doing fine without her. I did not think I would come to this point a few months ago. When I was a wreck, I almost feel bad that I am there. But I am a better person today than I was then. I am not cold to other people and am a lot more friendly and open with folks. But with her, I just don't know that I want to have contact. So Conrad's advice about the counseling session might be the way for me to go. Not sure now. I was okay with the idea before, but her email asking 2 quick questions, being the first contact in a week and a half, has me rethinking. Gave this a lot of thought and examined my motives pretty carefully to make sure I would not be doing anything to punish anybody or out of some passive aggressiveness. Or even worse for me, out of a motive to try to control a situation and perhaps manipulate something I feel anxious about because I have not real control over it. I had downloaded divorce papers from my state's website and started filling them out, but I decided that step would be too much. I would definitely be trying to control the situation and avoiding dealing with issues. However, when I thought about separation counseling and having contact with my W, I realized that I am doing better when I don't get emails and calls from her, and when I don't feel like I have to respond. So I thought is that I'd want to continue no contact through May, and then reevaluate sometime in June. I don't think it is necessary to go to separation counseling to say that. And I told my wife as much over an email. She had emailed me wanting times she could come this Friday to move out. I did not factor in her reaction to my thoughts in any way. I am not trying to manipulate her or make her try to chase me or any of that stuff. So, I felt good about writing it out and sending it, since it came from my own decision about my life without trying to control her or the situation, but simply trying to acknowledge how things already are and work with it. Anyhow, I don't think I will be going to the counseling. I did say I would go if she wanted to do so despite what I have said, but that I will not change my mind on it. And we have to go separately. She doesn't drive. I told her I don't think counseling is necessary and I don't want to go. I don't want contact in May, and that is what I would say. She has not replied. If she asks that we still go, I will consider it. She will probably process this with her IC on Monday before replying is my guess. We needed me to meet her at the bank to deposit the tax check and take me off the joint account. I have my own money. We didn't talk at all. I signed the papers and left simply saying have a nice day. While she was still signing, it was a jerk thing to do, and I feel bad about it. I was cold and distant, not cheerful. She saw the old me again, not the person I am becoming. Oh well, it hurt to go there and have a joint account closed, one we'd had for 9 years. Friday, she comes to get her stuff. My counselor says I should help her pack the stuff into the vehicles or find some way to be helpful. Or rather, he asked me what I have to lose by being helpful rather than cold and distant. And I see we talked a lot about this stuff. Basically, he pushed me to see that I have a choice how this ends, even if I don't really have any control over whether it ends. I think it is headed for divorce no matter what I say or do. How amicable do I want this to end? He also pushed me not to close down, not to push down my feelings and not feel them. His point was that no contact with her is a way for me to not feel the hurt right now. But, he said, I will have to deal with them, now or later. Bottling them up has added risks. I've been fairly sad about the whole situation this week. I was doing pretty well, now I am thinking about it all more. Now that the time has come for her to move out for real, it is not like it was months ago. I can sleep, eat, and I am not having anxiety attacks, but I am thinking about it a lot. I'm sad most of the time, not content. And I do have some anxiety tension, as well as wanting to sleep a lot more during the day. It is like every time she takes another step away, incremental steps in moving out, I have to regrieve again. Today has been pretty bad. Tightness in my stomach, sluggishness, and sleeping. I feel pretty bad. Tomorrow morning she's coming to get her stuff to move into her apartment. Geez, I thought I was over this kind of awful feeling. I start thinking thoughts about filing divorce papers, which is probably a way for me to cope with the sadness through doing something in anger, and that might hurt her. As long as I don't act on it, acting in anger that way is not good for me. If I am going to file for divorce, it needs to come from a better place than my own pain and trying to cover it up. I should get my back to a meeting tonight. Don't want to end up drunk either. Tomorrow morning, she'll have people coming with her to help haul her things. That will make it somewhat easier for me not to break down or to act in anger trying to cover it up. Trick will be not to act like an ice cube either and have a way of pushing down sadness by being hard as a stone. I won't explode at anybody, that is not my temptation. Mine will be to not say a word, to just stare and ignore, to answer curtly, etc. IC asked me why not help pack things into the car. Maybe I will. Maybe it will help me be less likely to be a cold-hearted jerk or to withdraw into my room and tear up in solitude. W is here with a few friends to get her things to move into a new apartment. I am staying out of the way, but not helping to carry things down. I already packed it all and moved everything toward the door, which is quite a lot of help in my view. I read in the AA Big Book this morning about resentments, how easy it is for me to forget. I've made a list in my head of all the wrongs she has done me, and this moving out is another. I tell myself that I am not all that bad. I never cheated, never hit her, never even threatened her, over the years have been generally supportive, etc. I have been a good husband, but I know I also have my part in her moving. I was also addicted to my work, became emotionally unavailable, isolated myself from others, and started to let little things get to me so that I held grudges once again. But I am working on those things. I feel better in all ways about life. Her leaving has been a wake-up call for me. Yet I don't think this is necessary. She does not have to leave. Our marriage is not unfixable. That is my view. She sees it differently. The Big Book says that I should treat her like she is ill, as if she has a sickness, a spiritual sickness that has caused her to harm me and our marriage in this way. And I would not treat a sick person badly. I would not put up an ice wall between myself and that person. I do what I can to help them if they ask for it, and try to listen as they tell of their pain, not thinking to describe my own in return. That is a good way to view this. She's leaving, it hurts like hell, but she's not well. Though she doesn't know it, I hope she gets better off on her own. Instead of anger at her, I can feel compassion, empathy, and sadness. The latter is hardest for me to allow, but it is what a normal person feels when a friend is sick. Right now, she and her friends are taking the first load to her new apartment. They will be back. I am not being weepy here today. I don't see how that would help at all. But I have shown emotional pain to her over the course of this separation. She knows I have changed a lot. She says that she has not though. The no contact thing is probably the hardest and might communicate withdraw more than anything. I might speak to her briefly before she leaves with her second and last load of things about that. She has not even given me her new address. I will not ask for it, but I find it sickening that I don't know where my own wife is going to be living. I am not going to ask, but it is part of this sickness thing I was mentioning. She knows I have changed and opened up a lot more to people over the past 3 months. She told me other people say this to her as well, yet she has not even told me where she is going to be living. I know the general area, but not where. She's not well. It is probably for the best that she is going to be honest. I'd likely be very frustrated with her here and in that frame of mind. She's back and getting the rest of her stuff. She has taken all her stuff and has left. Before she left, I did say to her that she did not have to do what she is doing, and I think she could have saved this marriage if she stayed. She gave me her key and asked me to consider letting her cat sit when I go out of town. I will get somebody else. Met with a friend today and had a good conversation over coffee this morning. Came back and slept for 2 hours. I've been sleeping a lot. Yesterday when she left, she cried in the parking lot while her 2 girlfriends comforted her. I checked the phone records today, since we are still on the same plan for another couple weeks. She called on 5 times today. Now that she has her own apartment, she must feel free to start that back up. I am so pissed. I downloaded divorce papers a week or 2 ago and started filling them out. After seeing those calls, I feel like I should file. I have also not exposed this emotional affair, and it might now turn physical since she has her own place. To their co-workers. They work together at a religious-based organization. I am very close with some of their co-workers and could cause some big problems if I expose this, especially for that guy. So, I am debating. Divorce filing. Expose this to people. I am so pissed off. I'd like to kick his ex and tell her to duck off. The phone is in my name. I could have it cut off immediately as well. All this is retaliatory type stuff to some degree, and I am not sure it would be helpful for me to follow through on. But it is all swirling in my head right now. Shouldn't have checked those phone records. I already took the phone off and told her I did it. I just couldn't take it, and I don't want to see anymore. I went to a movie last night to take my mind off things. That was good. Tomorrow I am headed to Chicago to meet with an old friend from New Zealand and have a good time. I am filing on Tuesday. I read in a book at Barnes & Noble's before the movie that you should warn your spouse that papers are coming. So I did. I sent a very brief note saying I cut off her phone after seeing the calls and that as a result I would be filing for a divorce as well. I don't deserve to be treated the way she is treating me, and nothing else. No name calling or anything, just matter of fact. Maybe I talk too much even with brief things, but the book I read said it is better to do that. So I did. I also think that informing her of my intention holds me to it. I have blocked her email account. I don't want to hear her excuses. I am done. I just told one of her best friends who is currently in China about her affair. She had advised me last week not to divorce, but she doesn't know about the wife has kept this low-key because of the stigma in religious organizations about affairs. She was able to text me through Google, said the was out of town, and she only wanted to know where to do recycling. As if he's the only person who could tell her that stuff. She won't beg me not to divorce her. I've communicated I don't care through no contact, canceling separation counseling, and guilt-tripping her right at the end of her move-out Friday, and she'll wait for the papers. I don't plan to respond at all. I will still file on Tuesday. I'll need to finish up the paperwork today and this evening. This stuff is so hard. It is a roller coaster, all right. I am pretty sure I have some kind of low-grade depression thing going on as I have been sleeping so much lately. Slept almost all day today in bits and pieces. I swing between anger, hurt, sadness, and numbness. My AA sponsor and my therapist should hear about all this. I am sure my therapist will want me to hold off. My sponsor didn't think I would be filing out of retaliation in a get-even spirit and said if he were in my shoes he would file for divorce. The realization of it being really over though has hit me in the past week, and I think that is why I have been sleeping so much. A coping mechanism in my body or something. I need to talk to somebody about this. This has got to be some kind of depression thing. Though I don't really mentally feel all that bad, I felt way worse back in early March mentally, and physically too with the anxiety attacks and symptoms. Or maybe this is a normal reaction. I read that depression is a normal part of grief, and so my sleeping might simply be part of my body's reaction to my increasing realization that this marriage is almost assuredly over. My 99 said sleeping for me right now is a response to grief. He said I should ask myself what I am feeling when I also feel tired and whether I have any reason to use sleep to try not to feel that way. Even though I am not intentionally and consciously trying to sleep away hurt, that may very well be what I am doing. So, I need to be aware of what emotions and such are happening. Right now, I am tired. I just got back from the courthouse to get information on how to file my own paperwork for a divorce. I plan to sit down with my W and tell her in person that I have filed, why, and what my hopes are in doing so. I suggested that I not try to cause her more pain in this process and show her I respect her and realize that she is responding to pain just as much as I am. Anyway, all that is to say that while I am tired right now, I am also feeling a bit sad about going to the courthouse and such. So, there may be a connection there. I am working on a 4th step in the 12-step program which involves taking a personal moral inventory. I am cataloging all the resentments I have toward other PPL, institution, and ideas. So far, I have about 8 pages of resentments against my STBX alone. That is a lot of baggage and weight to be holding on to. I'm not ready to let go of most of them, and I don't have to yet. That comes later, step 6 and 7. But I recognize that all of these are harmful to me. I'm not even done listing resentments against her yet, let alone all the crap I'm holding against others. I'm a pretty sick person. I had assumed I'd write a few things down, but when I started thinking, stuff just started coming out. Everything ranging from justifiable anger like her maneuvering so I would not go out with her one night so she could go with the to being resentful that she was invited to speak at some event and I was not. We both give talks to conferences and such things on a regular basis. Some of them made me really angry, opening up old wounds, and I had to stop one day because I was pissed after listing several pages of things, some of them like being resentful that she gets something and not me. Show me for a self-centered person. I can be, no matter it's an inventory. I am still not done. Sponsor said it will take a really long time and I should not try to think I am going to get over them by writing them down. I'm looking at all the resentments, just listing what is there. No matter the reason, I am just surprised at how resentful I am and how hard it is to face it. It is hard not because I am beating myself up so much as the wounds reopening. The truth is, I could not possibly communicate well with her even if she wanted to do so now. I have all this inside me. I probably won't do any work on it today. I'll sit for a couple hours tomorrow and do some more. I'm starting to list my resentments toward other people now. Spent a few hours today. Incredible to me that everywhere I have spent time and with all but a few people in my life, I have developed some type of grudge from the time I spent around various people. Betrayal. It is hard to look at this carnage. No wonder I didn't have anybody to call when W left me. Looking at this resume for friendship, I don't really have much to offer. I've made baby steps in the past 3 months toward a less self-centered life, but I'm barely crawling still. I think writing down resentments in some of these cases has allowed me to see their absurdity. In some cases, with others, I am simply jealous and have based my own self-esteem on others getting less than me. Profoundly insecure. Went to see a counselor today with my wife. He's a doctor rather than just a social worker with a counseling practice. A huge difference between his approach and our last marriage counselor. He is far better in my view so far. He got us both to agree to come to counseling. Next week we both have an individual session with him, and from there we have couple sessions. It was a rough session today. W was really angry when I brought up the E. She doesn't like to call it that and got really annoyed about it. He did a great job of listening and watching our interaction, then trying to see whether we both wanted it over or not and discerning that neither of us do. But each of us feels stuck. We'll see. I didn't trust the old MC from the start. I knew her outside of counseling, so it was awkward and probably unethical of her to even do the counseling. I am doing okay. I've had a few sessions of MC with my W that have not went too well. She and I met today and she said she is uncomfortable with this particular counselor, so we agreed to ask a different person in his office. The person we were originally referred to for counseling instead. I understood how it feels not to have an MC who one is comfortable with, since our last MC was a person I immediately felt at odds with and it had bad consequences. Then our conversation today turned sour, tit for tat, jockeying for the victim's chair. I am such an idiot for playing that game. I have a 44-page list of resentments against a variety of people and institution, and here today I was displaying it all. I have to get beyond this bull crap. Anxiety levels tonight are sky high because of the conversation. Playing that game is just harmful all around. To myself, to my W, to our relationship, to others. Last night I invited W to coffee this afternoon to try again to have a decent conversation and to catch up with each other. She agreed and we had a peaceful and good talk about what each of us has been up to for the past few months. Nothing about our individual counseling work or my 12-step work or any relational talk. I won't invite her for talks till she has reciprocated now. I told her I am open to meeting more often for friendly interactions, but not for relationship stuff and to trade resentments to attempt to make each other apologize and feel bad. For me, I am willing to let some of it go and act as if I am forgiving her if she can take some steps too. I know the with her E is out of the picture, has been for a while it seems. On the other hand, I am still not all that hopeful about things. We've made big steps by talking to each other and going to counseling. But this is not going to be an easy or short road. My own feelings are still pretty raw. I am sure hers are too. Having been on my own for 3 months, I am starting to get used to this bachelor's life, liking it and where my life is headed at the moment. Anyway, I'm not begging and pleading. I'm fairly strong on my own, but I am opening up to her a bit to see what happens. Y99 has consistently recommended this to me. I'm not chasing. I met with her at 2 Sundays back and we talked cordially, and I let her know I would welcome more time like this, but I will not initiate anything. She hasn't done so either. I saw her at a friend's party on SETI. She came up to me to talk and asked if we should interact while there or ignore each other. I felt weird about the question and just said that was up to her. We did not interact. I left before her, and when I was a little ways out the door she came outside and asked me if I was leaving, and I turned around and said yes. She said that she would see me later then. She chased me out the door basically to see what I was up to. I did not initiate anything, and I won't. I just cut contact in a cold way that was unhelpful and felt like I needed to let her know that I am open to her. But I will not beg and chase either. Looks like MC is over. She didn't like the counselor. She tried to find another to do separation counseling in her words, but couldn't find one. So that is over. 1 month later, wife and I are in counseling again. Have had a couple sessions with a new female counselor. She was not comfortable with the other guy. 2 males were intimidating for her. I understand not being comfortable with a counselor. I was uncomfortable with our first MC but never thought I could say so, for fear she would think I was trying to dodge it all. So, I didn't mind switching, and I like this new lady a lot. Our relationship has become a lot more friendly. She has finally admitted to her E, which is over. Previously she would get upset when I called it that, saying she did nothing wrong. Perhaps her IC has helped her there. Not sure. I do not chase her. We have set up boundaries in counseling for our contacts and how we engage with each other outside the sessions, which is really helpful. It takes the worry out of things. Why doesn't she call? Why don't I invite her? Etc. We have an agreement about our contact, and that is good. And not sure if we will reconcile. That is not the goal of the counseling necessarily. I personally think such a thing would be a long shot, but I am holding on to it all loosely, and participating in the process of trying to establish good communications between us, where we both have to deal with our emotional baggage, so that we can decide later if that is something we want. I'm actually not sure, neither is she. I am sure that I cannot allow my resentments and such to control me, nor can I allow my need to control things by knowing the future to dictate how I behave any longer. It is kind of freeing to let go of it, to let things fall into place how they may. I have been a very controlling person. I am still working on my 4th step work. Now I am listing all the harms I have done to various people, and it is a long list. I have about 46 pages of resentments I have built up over the past few years. Those are slowly dissipating as the light has been shed on them. So, I am working on myself. I am sad that our marriage has come to this point, but I am not depressed. It doesn't control me. I know I can be fine either way, and I am struggling to make sure that I don't try to fix things by pushing in either direction. I'm kind of going with the flow, living pretty easily. My need to know the future and to have a short path really hampered my ability to live in the present. Over the past month and a half, something has been lifted from me. I am experiencing life in a freer way. My resentments toward my wife are not as important, nor my resentments toward anybody. I don't feel the need to use them in a back and forth for a victim's chair any longer. I was a jerk, frankly. I needed to control things, to know my career path, to know my future. To be sure, I overworked, ignored others, treated people like things to get my way. I see myself a little more clearly and why I felt I needed to do those things and felt that way. But my 12-step work and counseling have slowly worked their magic. Something has lifted, and I don't hate people anymore or feel the need to fight and make a mental list of their wrongs and how I should treat them now. Anyway, life is good. Limbo land doesn't have to be hellish. I am finding that when I give up the need to know my future, this not knowing whether my marriage will end or continue isn't so bad. My attempts to control it and push it toward a future in one direction or another are what has been disastrous for me and harmful to others. So, I've given that up. Of course, if she ended up with an it would be over. We are clear on that. The is over. It is strange, ever since we started back into counseling, I have noticed other women showing an interest in me without me doing anything. I try to keep my distance and never ask other women out for coffee or anything, but I have noticed a number of them coming on to me in various ways, just today in fact. That is something I never even noticed before because I really paid little attention to most women. Probably not merely because I am married, but also because of my self-centered ways in which I only pay much attention to people if they can help me in some way. Usually people with some kind of power, and there are less women in power who have ever showed any interest in me that seems like flirting or anything. So maybe it is a good thing that I notice now. It means I am paying attention to people again and not ignoring folks or seeing them as tools for me to use for career advancement or whatnot. My comment, Opus is starting to get some interest outside of his STBX. Maybe he is working on himself, and he doesn't even realize things are going to a better direction. Let's find out in part 3 what he come out of this doing.